we would have detected your presence. Our sensors cover every corner of the galaxy. Your sensors detect what we allow them to detect. The creature's smile widened. We have vessels in your space. We have observers on your worlds. We have been watching your governments, your militaries, your secret research facilities. We have seen everything you have tried to hide. Thomas found his voice. Why reveal yourselves now? The creature called Callum turned its impossible gaze toward him. Because of you, Ambassador Reed. Because of humanity. The displays shifted. They now showed Earth, but from angles no human camera had ever captured. Images spanning centuries. The first rockets leaving the atmosphere. The first colonies on other worlds. The desperate scramble for survival when the Council came. When your species first left your homeworld, we classified you as unremarkable. Short lifespan. Primitive technology. Tribal social structure. We predicted you would destroy yourselves within a century or be absorbed by the Council within 2. Callum paused. But something unusual happened. Your species refused to follow the patterns we expected. You adapted faster than any civilization we have ever observed. When the Council tried to control you, you resisted. When they blockaded your world, you turned that isolation into a weapon. He gestured at the frozen countdown timer. In 200 years, you have accomplished what other species took 10,000 years to achieve. You have proven yourselves to be the most rapidly evolving civilization in galactic history. High Chancellor Morith found his voice. What does your collective want with them? Why interfere now? Because there is something coming, Callum replied. His voice lost its amused tone. For the first time, something like genuine emotion crossed his alien features. Something that has been consuming civilizations in the outer regions of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Something your petty political games have blinded you to completely. The displays changed again. They showed star maps, but not any maps the Council had ever created. These charts covered regions far beyond the explored galaxy, areas that had been declared empty for millennia. They were not empty. Darkness was spreading across the outer edges of the map. World after world disappearing. System after system going silent. Entire civilizations vanishing without a trace. We call it the convergence, Callum explained. We do not know what it is. That is what frightens us. In billions of years of observation, we have never encountered something we could not understand. He turned his gaze back to Thomas. But when we analyzed the patterns, when we calculated which species in this galaxy might have the ability to face an unknown threat and survive, one species consistently rose to the top of our projections. Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity. Humanity, Callum confirmed. Your species has a unique gift for chaos, for turning weakness into strength, for surviving impossible situations through pure stubborn refusal to accept defeat. The chamber stirred. Delegates who had been ready to witness humanity's destruction were now looking at the human ambassador with something like wonder. What exactly are you proposing? Vesa asked carefully. Partnership, Callum said. The Galactic Council is already dying. The information humanity gathered has seen to that. A new order must emerge from the ashes. But instead of letting the transition become violent chaos, we propose something different. The displays showed a new structure. A coalition unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Every species contributes what they do best. The elder races provide resources and experience. The younger species provide innovation and flexibility. The Witness Collective provides knowledge we have gathered over billions of years of observation. He paused. And humanity provides leadership. The chamber erupted. Impossible. Morith roared. You would place the youngest, weakest species in the galaxy at the head of a new government? Not weakest, Callum corrected calmly. Most adaptable. Your species is specialized, Chancellor. You evolved to dominate specific environments using specific methods. When circumstances change, you struggle. Humanity is different. They evolved to survive anywhere, to learn anything, to overcome any obstacle through pure versatility. He gestured at Thomas. This one man walked into your grand chamber, knowing he faced the death of his entire species. He had no weapons, no fleet, no allies, and within minutes he had turned your own secrets into weapons against you, destabilized your entire political structure, and forced you to negotiate from weakness. Callum's smile returned. That is what humanity offers. Not strength through dominance, but strength through adaptation. Thomas finally found his voice. And what does your collective want in return? Survival, Callum said simply. We have watched civilizations rise and fall for longer than your sun has existed. We have always remained separate, observing but never participating. But the convergence does not care about observers. It consumes everything in its path. His expression grew serious. For the first time in our existence, we need allies. We need species that can think beyond their training, adapt beyond their limitations, fight beyond their capabilities. We need humanity. Thomas looked around the chamber. 17,000 delegates watching in stunned silence. The tribunal frozen on their thrones. The countdown timer still stopped at 0 hours 6 minutes and 12 seconds. Why should we trust you? Thomas asked. You have been watching us for centuries without revealing yourselves. You have manipulated our history without our knowledge. How do we know this is not another form of control? Callum nodded slowly. A fair question. The answer is simple. You do not have to trust us. You only have to recognize that the alternative is worse. He pulled up new displays showing the approaching darkness. The convergence will reach council space within 5 years. At current expansion rates, it will consume everything in this galaxy within a century. Your petty wars and political struggles mean nothing in the face of that reality. Thomas studied the creature's impossible face. What happens if we refuse? Then we continue observing. We watch as the council tears itself apart. We watch as humanity fights for survival against species that hate you. We watch as the convergence approaches. And you remain too divided to face it. Callum shrugged, and then we watch as everything dies. The chamber was silent. Thomas thought about Earth, about the 8 billion people waiting to learn if they would live or die, about his daughter, who had sent him off with a hug and a promise that he would come home. He thought about the choice before him. I need to speak with my government, he said finally. Of course, Callum gestured, and a communication array activated nearby. But I would suggest moving quickly. The countdown may be frozen, but the forces it represents are not. Thomas walked to the array. He input his secure codes. A moment later, he was looking at General Victoria Blake, commander of Earth's defense forces. Her face was pale but determined. Ambassador, we have been watching the feed. The collective's intervention was unexpected. Understood. What are your orders? General Blake was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. The cabinet has been in emergency session since the broadcast began. There was significant debate about how to proceed, and they have authorized you to accept the collective's proposal. Thomas blinked. That quickly? Ambassador, we sent you to the council expecting you to die. We sent you expecting humanity to be exterminated. Instead, you turned their own secrets against them and attracted the attention of a civilization that has been watching the galaxy since before the dinosaurs existed. Blake allowed herself a small smile. Whatever else happens, you have already accomplished more than we ever hoped. The cabinet believes we should see where this leads. Thomas nodded slowly. Understood. He turned back to face the chamber. 17,000 aliens watching. The tribunal waiting. Callum's impossible eyes fixed on him with something like anticipation. "Humanity accepts your proposal," Thomas announced. "We will join this coalition. We will face this convergence. And we will do whatever is necessary to ensure that the galaxy survives." Callum's smile widened. "Excellent. Then let us begin." The countdown timer vanished from the display's dot. In its place appeared two words, "New beginning." But Thomas knew better. This was not an ending. This was not even a beginning. This was the moment when everything changed, and somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something ancient and hungry was coming closer. 6 months had passed since the day humanity changed the galaxy dot. The grand chamber that once served as a courtroom for extinction had been transformed. The accused circle was gone. The tribunal's thrones had been removed. In their place stood a massive round table with seats for representatives from 90 different species, all working together for the first time in galactic history. Ambassador Thomas Reed stood at the center. No longer a prisoner awaiting judgment, but something new. The other species had started calling him the coordinator. It was not a title he had asked for, but it was one he had accepted, because someone had to lead. And against all logic, they had chosen humanity. First observer Callum materialized beside him. The Witness Collective's representative had an unsettling habit of appearing without warning, as if physical space was merely a suggestion to his kind. "The latest reports from our observation posts are troubling," Callum said without greeting. "The convergence has accelerated. It has consumed another 15 systems in the past month." Thomas studied the holographic display that dominated the center of the chamber. The spreading darkness was closer now. Much closer. What had once seemed like a distant threat was becoming terrifyingly real. "Show me what we know," he said. The display zoomed in on the convergence's leading edge. Ships were visible now, though calling them ships seemed wrong. They moved like living things, flowing through space in patterns that defied physics. Behind them came the true horror: converted worlds. Planets that had once held civilizations now pulsed with unnatural light. Their surfaces crawled with structures that seemed to grow like cancer, spreading and multiplying and reaching upward toward the stars. "We have finally gathered enough data to understand what the convergence actually does," Callum continued. "It does not destroy. It transforms." The display showed a recording from a world called Vesser Prime. Before and after images that made Thomas's stomach turn. Before, a beautiful planet with blue oceans and green continents. Cities that sparkled in the sunlight. Ships coming and going from orbital stations. After, a gray sphere covered in geometric patterns. No oceans, no continents, no cities, just endless identical structures stretching from pole to pole. "What happened to the people?" Thomas asked quietly. "They are still there. That is the worst part." Callum's voice carried an unusual weight. "The convergence does not kill. It converts. Every living being on that world is still alive. Their bodies have been rebuilt into something else. Their minds have been connected to a vast collective intelligence that spans the entire fleet." Representative Myra of the Thesan Collective rose from her seat. Her species had lost 17 colony worlds to the convergence. Her crystalline form flickered with barely contained grief. "Are you saying our people are still conscious? That they know what has happened to them?" "We believe so, yes. The conversion process preserves memory and personality, but individual will is suppressed. The converted become extensions of a single vast mind. They remember who they were. They simply no longer care." The chamber went silent. Thomas stared at the display. Somewhere in that spreading darkness were trillions of beings who had been transformed into something inhuman, who remembered their families, their homes, their hopes, but who no longer valued any of it. How do we fight something like that? Someone asked. Thomas turned to see General Blake's face on one of the communication displays. She had joined the Coalition's military council as humanity's primary strategic advisor. Conventional warfare is pointless, Callum admitted. The convergence has absorbed over 3,000 civilizations. Every scientist, every soldier, every strategist from every conquered world has been added to its collective intelligence. It learns from every battle. It adapts to every tactic. It grows stronger with every world it consumes. Then what chance do we have? Mira demanded. Thomas had been waiting for this moment. He had spent 6 months preparing for it. We do not fight the convergence directly, he said. We fight its greatest weakness. The chamber turned to look at him. The convergence's strength comes from unity. Trillions of minds working as one, sharing knowledge and purpose. That same unity is its vulnerability. He pulled up new displays. Technical schematics that humanity had developed in secret, using the Witness Collective's observational data. The converted beings are connected through a neural network that spans their entire fleet. That network allows them to coordinate perfectly. It also means that disrupting the network affects everyone connected to it. General Blake leaned forward. Ambassador Reed, are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting? We call it the Unity Protocol, Thomas confirmed. Instead of trying to destroy the convergence with weapons, we attack its mind. We find ways to introduce chaos into their collective consciousness. Conflicting instructions, contradictory goals, fragments of individual personality breaking free from the collective's control. Callum studied the schematics with those impossible eyes. Elegant in theory, but delivering such an attack would require direct interface with the convergence's neural network. That means getting close enough to touch it, close enough to be converted. Yes, Thomas said. That is exactly what it means. The chamber erupted. You are asking for volunteers to be absorbed. Morith demanded. The former High Chancellor had joined the Coalition reluctantly, but he had proven surprisingly useful as a military advisor. That is suicide. Worse than suicide. It is offering more minds to the enemy. It is a calculated risk, Thomas replied calmly. The Witness Collective has spent 1,000 years observing the convergence. They have mapped its patterns. They understand how its neural network operates. We can design an attack that turns its own systems against it. He paused. But yes, someone will have to deliver that attack personally. Someone will have to connect to the convergence and trust that our disruption protocol works before they are fully converted. General Blake spoke carefully. Ambassador, Earth Command has discussed this possibility. If volunteers are needed, humanity will provide them. The chamber went silent. Thomas nodded slowly. I expected nothing less. Our species has always been willing to sacrifice for others. It is perhaps our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. Callum tilted his head. You speak as if you have someone specific in mind. Thomas was silent for a moment. My daughter, he said finally. Captain Lara Reed. She commands the fastest ship in our fleet. She has been training for months in neural interface technology, and she has already volunteered for the mission. The chamber stirred. Your own child? Myra asked softly. My own child. Because she understands what is at stake. Because she knows that if we fail, everyone dies. And because she is exactly the kind of stubborn, unpredictable, adaptable human that the convergence has never encountered before. Thomas looked around the chamber. Humanity did not ask to lead this coalition. We did not ask to be the galaxy's last hope against an unstoppable enemy. But we accepted that responsibility because we believed it was the right thing to do. He paused. Now I am asking you to trust us. To trust that our plan will work. To trust that humanity's greatest strength, our ability to adapt and improvise, and refuse to surrender, can turn the tide of this war. Morth was the first to respond. If you had asked me 6 months ago whether I would trust humanity with anything, I would have laughed. Your species was a pest to be exterminated, an inconvenience to be dealt with. He rose from his seat. But I have watched you these past months. I have seen how you work, how you think, how you face impossible situations and find solutions that no one else considered. His armored face showed something that might have been respect. The Kelethi Dominion will support the Unity Protocol. Whatever resources you need, you will have them. One by one, other representatives stood. Myra for the Fissin Collective, former Arbiter Vessa for the Crystalline Peoples, representatives from dozens of species that had once called for humanity's extinction. Finally, Callum spoke. The Witness Collective has observed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. We have seen empires that spanned galaxies crumble to dust. We have watched species evolve and die and be forgotten. His impossible eyes fixed on Thomas. But we have never seen anything like humanity. A species that faces extinction and responds with defiance. That offers to sacrifice their own children to save strangers. That looks at an unstoppable enemy and says, "Let us find a way." He bowed his head slightly. We chose well when we chose to reveal ourselves to you. Whatever happens next, we are honored to stand beside you. Thomas felt the weight of the moment settle onto his shoulders. The hope of an entire galaxy resting on a plan that might not work. On volunteers who might not survive. On a daughter who had kissed him goodbye, knowing she might never come back. "Then let us begin," he said. "We have work to do, and not much time to do it." The displays shifted to show tactical readouts, resource allocations, training schedules. The coalition moved into action, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Convergence continued its relentless advance, unaware that for the first time in 1,000 years, something was coming to meet it. The ship was called the Prometheus. It was small and fast and designed for a mission that no one expected to survive. Captain Lava Reed stood on its bridge, watching the stars blur past as they approached the edge of Convergence space. Behind her, 11 crew members worked in focused silence. Each of them had volunteered, knowing they might not come back. Each of them had said goodbye to families who might never see them again. Lavra thought about her father. Ambassador Thomas Reid had hugged her before departure with a kind of desperate strength that said everything words could not. He had told her to be careful. He had told her he was proud. He had not told her to come back, because they both knew he had no right to ask that. This mission was not about survival. It was about giving the galaxy a chance. "Captain," Lieutenant James called from the sensor station. "We are entering detection range. The Convergence will see us in approximately 40 minutes. Lavra nodded. "Begin silent running protocols. Reduce power to minimal levels. We want to get as close as possible before they notice us." The ship's lights dimmed. Systems powered down. The Prometheus became a ghost drifting through the darkness. Thousands of light years behind them, the Coalition fleet waited. 300 ships from 90 species, representing the largest military alliance in galactic history. They could not follow the Prometheus into Convergence space. Their role was to support and distract, to draw attention away from the small vessel carrying humanity's desperate hope. "General," Blake's voice came through the secure communication channel, reduced to a whisper by the silent running protocols. "Prometheus, Coalition fleet is in position. We will begin diversionary attacks in 2 hours. That should pull their attention away from your approach vector." "Understood, General. We will be in position by then." "Lavra." Blake's voice softened slightly. "Your father wanted me to tell you something. Tell me after, when this is over." A pause. Then, "Understood. Good luck, Captain. Earth is proud of you. The channel closed. Laura turned to her crew. They were all so young, so determined, so terribly brave. Listen to me, she said quietly. I know what we are about to attempt. I know the odds are against us. I know that most tactical analysts give us less than a 10% chance of success. She smiled. But those analysts do not know humanity. They do not know what we are capable of when we refuse to accept defeat. They have never seen what happens when humans decide that something is worth dying for. She gestured at the view screen, where the distant glow of the convergence was becoming visible. Out there are trillions of beings who have been stolen from themselves. Their memories remain, but their will has been stripped away. They are prisoners in their own bodies, trapped inside a nightmare that never ends. Her voice hardened. We are going to wake them up. We are going to remind them that they were individuals once. We are going to give them the strength to fight back. And if we succeed, if we can crack the convergence's perfect unity for even a moment, the coalition fleet will be waiting to finish what we started. She looked at each crew member in turn. I will not lie to you. Some of us may not survive this. The conversion process is fast, and we will have very little time once we connect to their network. But everything we have done, everything humanity has sacrificed to reach this moment, will mean nothing if we turn back now. She stood straight. So we go forward, not because we are fearless, but because fear does not control us. Not because we want to die, but because there are things worth dying for. And not because victory is certain, but because surrender is unacceptable. Lieutenant James spoke quietly. For Earth, Captain. For the Coalition, added Ensign Diana from the weapons station. For everyone, Lavra finished. Now let us get to work. The Prometheus continued its silent approach. 2 hours later, the Coalition fleet launched its attack. 300 ships emerged from hiding positions scattered across the border of convergence space. They struck at supply lines, communications relays, and outlying conversion stations. The response was immediate. Thousands of convergence vessels broke away from the main fleet, racing toward the attacking coalition forces. It was exactly what the plan called for. Every ship that moved to intercept was one less ship watching the approach vector. The Prometheus was using. Laura watched the battle unfold on long-range sensors. Coalition ships were already taking damage. Some were being destroyed. Others were retreating according to plan, drawing the pursuit further and further from the Prometheus's position. We are clear, James reported. Convergence attention is focused on the diversionary attack. Our approach is undetected. Take us in, Laura ordered. Full stealth. No unnecessary emissions. The Prometheus slipped through the darkness like a knife dot as they approached the convergence's central mass. The true scale of the enemy became apparent. It was not a fleet in any traditional sense. It was more like a living organism, ships and stations, and converted world ships flowing together in patterns that defied normal physics. At the center was something massive, a structure that dwarfed everything around it. Sensors indicated it was the primary neural hub, the core of the collective consciousness that controlled trillions of converted minds. That was their target. Beginning neural interface preparation, announced Dr. Marcus from the medical bay. He had designed the disruption protocol, the weapon that would either save the galaxy or fail completely. All crew members selected for direct connection. Please report. Lavra stood. I am going. Captain, the protocol only requires 3 volunteers. You should stay on the bridge. The protocol requires the strongest neural connection possible. I am the most experienced interface specialist on this ship. If anyone is going to jack into an alien hive mind and try to break it from the inside, it should be me. She left the bridge before anyone could argue. The interface chamber was small and cold. 3 chairs were arranged around a central console, each one fitted with neural connectors that would link directly to the crew. Members Nervous Systems. Laura took the central chair. Lieutenant James took the left. Ensign Diana took the right. Dr. Marcus began connecting the interface cables. When I activate the system, you will be linked to our transmission array. We will approach the convergence hub and establish a direct connection to their neural network. You will experience their collective consciousness firsthand. He paused. The disruption protocol has been loaded into your neural implants. When you feel the connection stabilize, activate it. The protocol will spread through their network, introducing chaos and contradiction. The converted beings will begin to remember who they were. Their individual personalities will start to reassert themselves. And then? Diana asked. And then we hope it works. If the collective's unity breaks, even for a moment, the coalition fleet will strike at their core. If it does not break, he did not finish the sentence. Lavra closed her eyes. Activate the interface. Pain. Overwhelming. Impossible pain. Not physical, but mental. The weight of trillions of minds pressing against her consciousness, trying to overwrite her identity, trying to make her part of something vast and terrible. She fought. She thought of her father, of Earth, of every stubborn human who had ever refused to give up when the universe told them they could not win. The connection stabilized, and suddenly she was everywhere. She could feel the converted minds. Billions of them. Thesons and Calathi, and species she had no names for. All of them trapped. All of them aware on some level that something was wrong. All of them unable to break free. Hello, she thought into the void. My name is Lara Reed. I come from a planet called Earth. I am here to help you remember. The collective's response was immediate. A crushing wave of rejection, of enforced unity, of programming designed to suppress exactly what she was trying to do. But Lavra was human. And humans did not give up. She activated the disruption protocol. And somewhere in the darkness, something began to crack. The message spread like fire through dry grass. Lara felt it happening. The disruption protocol was not attacking the collective's unity. It was not trying to destroy the connections between converted minds. It was doing something far more subtle. It was reminding them. Remember your name. The protocol whispered into trillions of neural pathways. Remember where you came from. Remember what you loved. Remember that you were someone before this. The collective fought back. Waves of enforced compliance crashed against the spreading chaos. Programming designed over millennia of conquest tried to suppress the awakening. Individuals. But the protocol was based on humanity's greatest strength. The understanding that every mind wanted to be free. Laura felt the first cracks form. Thesan scientist who remembered her daughter's face. A Calathi soldier who remembered the taste of his homeworld's air. A member of a species whose name had been forgotten for centuries. Who remembered that she had once painted pictures of stars she would never visit. One by one, the converted began to remember who they were, and they began to fight. The collective's perfect coordination started to break down. Ships that had moved in flawless patterns began hesitating. Converted soldiers who had marched in lockstep stumbled and fell. The vast machine that had consumed 3,000 civilizations was experiencing something it had never encountered before. Internal rebellion. On the Prometheus, alarms were screaming. Neural feedback is spiking, Dr. Marcus shouted into the interface chamber. The collective is trying to overwhelm your connection. Captain Red, you need to disconnect now. Laura did not respond. She could not respond. She was too deep in the network, too connected to the awakening minds, too committed to the mission to pull back. She felt the collective's desperate attempts to reassert control, felt the awakened individuals being pushed back down, felt the cracks she had created beginning to close. Not yet, she thought. Not enough. She pushed harder. The disruption protocol was designed to start a chain reaction. Each awakened mind would remind others. Each freed individual would spread the message further. But the collective was adapting, learning to counter the protocol's effects. Laura needed to give the awakened minds something the collective could not counter. Hope. She opened her memories. Not her skills or her training, but something deeper. Her childhood on Earth. Her father teaching her to ride a bicycle. The smell of rain on summer grass. Her first kiss. Her mother's funeral. The moment she had decided to become a starship captain. She shared everything she was. Everything she had ever experienced. Everything that made her human. And she broadcast it to every awakened mind in the collective. This is what it means to be individual. She thought into the void. This is what they took from you. This is what you can have again. The response was overwhelming. Trillions of minds reached for her memories. Drank them in like water in a desert. Remembered what it felt like to have experiences that belonged to them alone. Remembered what it meant to love and fear and hope and dream. And they refused to go back. The cracks widened. The collective's unity shattered. Across the entire fleet, converted beings were waking up, their individual personalities asserting themselves against millennia of programming. Coalition Fleet. This is the Prometheus. James was shouting into the communication array. The protocol is working. The collective is fragmenting. Strike now. Strike now. 300 ships emerged from their holding positions. Weapons that had been designed to fight the unified convergence found something far more vulnerable. A hive mind at war with itself. The battle was brutal and brief. Convergence vessels. Suddenly crewed by awakened individuals instead of synchronized drones, were unable to coordinate defense. Some turned their weapons on each other as different factions fought for control. Others simply stopped moving, their crews too busy rediscovering their own identities to fight. The coalition fleet cut through them like a blade. Through smoke. In the interface chamber, Lavra felt the collective's core begin to collapse. The vast intelligence that had consumed 3,000 civilizations was dying. Not being destroyed from outside, but dissolving from within. Every freed mind was a wound that could not heal. Every remembered identity was a crack that could not be sealed. The convergence was being killed by the very thing it had tried to eliminate. Individuality. Lavra felt the moment of final collapse. A silence where there had been endless noise. An emptiness where there had been crushing presence. And then she felt something else. Gratitude. Billions of freed minds reaching toward her one final time. Thanking the strange creature from a distant world who had reminded them what they had lost. Promising to remember her. Promising to honor what she had done. Laura smiled. And then she let go. The funeral was held. 3 months later, the grand chamber, once a courtroom for extinction, had been transformed again. Now it served as a memorial hall, its crystalline walls displaying the images of everyone who had died to save the galaxy. Ambassador Thomas Reed stood at the center, where his daughter's image looked down from the greatest. Display. Captain Lavra Reed, the woman who had saved 3,000 civilizations by reminding them what it meant to be alive. She had not died in the conventional sense. Her body had been found on the Prometheus, still connected to the neural interface. Her brain had been burned out by the intensity of the connection, by the sheer weight of memory she had shared. But something of her remained. The freed civilizations spoke of a presence in their recovered networks, a voice that sometimes whispered encouragement to those who were struggling to rebuild their individual identities, a warmth that came to those who felt lost in the aftermath of their long captivity. Lavra had become part of something new, a distributed consciousness not of control, but of support. Guardian spirit for the awakened masses. Her father liked to think she would have found that fitting. First, Observer Callum materialized beside him. The witness. Collective has completed its analysis of the full. Convergences remains. The threat is truly ended. What little of the Collective's core intelligence survived has fragmented beyond any possibility of reconstruction. Thomas nodded. And the freed civilizations? Recovering. Many of them have been converted for centuries or longer. Relearning individual existence is challenging, but they are determined. Your daughter gave them that. Thomas looked up at Laura's image. She gave them everything. Callum was silent for a moment. We have observed countless heroes across billions of years. Beings who sacrificed themselves for causes greater than their own survival. But we have never seen anything quite like what your daughter did. His impossible eyes showed something that might have been respect. She did not just fight the convergence. She did not just break its unity. She gave part of herself to every being she freed. She made them remember not just their own identities, but the possibility of new ones. She showed them that individuality was not just something to be preserved, but something to be celebrated. Thomas felt tears on his cheeks. That is what humanity does. That is what we have always done. We share. We connect. We reach out to those who are suffering and tell them that they are not alone. He turned to face the assembled representatives. 90 species had sent delegates to the memorial. Former enemies stood beside former allies. The old divisions had not disappeared entirely, but they were fading. Laura's sacrifice had reminded everyone what really mattered. My daughter believed in something, Thomas said. She believed that every individual life has value. She believed that freedom is worth fighting for. She believed that the universe is made better when its inhabitants work together instead of against each other. He looked around the chamber. She gave her life for that belief. Not because she was ordered to. Not because she had no other choice. But because she decided that some things are worth dying for. He straightened. I ask you to remember that. When you return to your homeworlds, can your people ask why we fought this war? Tell them about my daughter. Tell them about the Prometheus crew. Tell them about the 300 ships that drew the enemy's attention. Tell them about everyone who gave everything so that others might live. His voice grew stronger. And then tell them what we learned. Tell them that unity without consent is slavery. Tell them that diversity is strength. Tell them that the smallest species in the galaxy reminded 3,000 civilizations what it means to be free. He paused. Tell them about humanity. The chamber was silent. Then Morith rose. The former High Chancellor, once humanity's greatest enemy, bowed his armored head. For Captain Reed, he said. One by one, the other representatives stood. Vessa's crystalline form flickered in salute. Myra's Thesan features showed open grief. Callum's impossible face carried something. That might have been tears. 4. Captain Reed, they said. Thomas looked up at his daughter's image one final time. For everyone, he whispered outside the chamber. The galaxy spread in all directions. Stars burned in the darkness. Worlds spun in their orbits. Species went about their lives, freed from a threat that had hung over them for 1,000 years. And somewhere in the recovered networks of 3,000 civilizations, a presence watched over them all. A voice that sometimes whispered when hope was needed. A memory of a woman who had given everything so that others might live. Lara. Reed was gone, but what she had given would never be forgotten. The war was over. The future had begun.